Hey bud, Smiley here. Last thing we're going to be talking about for actions is the other actions. So a lot of these are going to be varying amounts of AP, kind of different use cases depending on different scenarios, when things need to be a little bit flexible or may not necessarily be as cut and dry every time. So to start, a talent check. If you're going to be in combat, we need to apply an amount of AP towards making a talent check. Sometimes they may be, something pretty sizable, like trying to lift a car or something, might be like 2 AP. But they could be as little as nothing. Making a talent check to like quickly observe something that's happening could just cost nothing and could be available to everybody. So it really just depends. You could even make it cost more than 2 AP if you really wanted to, but that's going to be all game master's discretion. It really just depends on the situation. This combined talent check would be, similarly applicable. It just and whenever you can do a combined talent check, I always recommend it just because it's fun to do those. Desperation Attack. Sometimes you just end up with 1 AP and you're trying to hit somebody and you just really want to keep going for it. So you can make an unarmed attack with 1 AP, which does not get any moxie applied to its attack roll or damage. So you're kind of just really throwing a Hail Mary there to get a little last bit of damage in, or really bring the last little sliver of HP down off of an enemy or a boss. But the other thing to keep in mind is if you do make a Desperation Attack, any attacks against you have advantage until the end of your next turn. So definitely not a great, can be kind of a bad trade-off depending on the circumstance, but if you need to just do like a little bit more damage and you think you can roll that high number, it's worth giving it a shot. All right, hold action. So on your turn, you can choose to spend AP and delay the action that you want to perform. Let your GM know what will trigger that action and spend the AP you plan to right then. When that trigger takes place, you perform the action. If the trigger does not take place, you lose that AP that you spent and the action does not happen. If you've used AP for anything other than movement on this turn, you may not hold an action. So I read that one verbatim because it can get a little bit confusing, but essentially you're telling your GM, hey, if this happens, I'm going to do this. I just don't want to do it right now. So you're waiting for something to happen, like someone to come out from hiding or reappear, or for like a concoction to be used or something like that. So it's kind of a gamble, right? You can play a little bit more strategically with the timeline of the turn, but if it doesn't happen, you just run out of that AP. So definitely can be important and turn the tide of battle, but it can also be a waste. So plan accordingly and be ready to potentially lose that AP. Reloading, you got to do it. If you got a gun, sometimes you got to do it. And it costs 1 or 2 AP depending on the weapon, and that will all be listed on the reload cost, which you can find in the equipment section on that table for the particular item. So same thing, equipping items. If you have like 2 weapons in one hand and you want to equip a different one, you're going to have to do a little bit of switcheroo. So that would require you to use 1 AP normally, but it can depend if it's something particularly bulky or has a lot to do. It may be a little bit more than that, but generally it's going to be 1 AP. Lastly, something important to mention, if you have a gadget slot on your armor, you can equip gadgets in there and you don't have to be holding them. So a pretty common thing that people get confused about with gadget slots is that you need them to have the gadget at all. That is not true. The gadget slot just allows you to have access to it and utilize it without it having to be, quote, in your hands. So we'll cover a little bit more of that in the equipment section because there's a lot of stuff that can go into equipment. And one of my favorites, a super team combo. Basically, if you're going to be using your superpower at the same time and combined with another 1, 2, or even 3 members of your team. So basically, think of it like combining your powers together to do an even more devastating attack. So to do that, you'll have to spend 4 AP instead of the normal 3, and the same amount of Hero's Favor, but you can still stack as you might want to do more damage or more healing or whatever it is. So this one can get a little bit more on the initially kind of confusing side, since there's a lot of moving gears for that. So we've kind of laid out a little chart about how it works on 187, which I'll jump to right there. But basically, whenever you're planning on doing an attack with your either dynamic duel, triple threat, or the quad god, a superpower super team attack is awesome and can do a lot for you, not only in the damage department but also in the public merit department. So definitely a good thing to get planned with your super team and have in your back pocket for either when things get kind of hairy or a flashy showstopper. And then lastly, we've got basic actions. So just a kind of a general guide for your GM to apply AP if there is something that they don't think should necessarily be free. Something like, picking up an item that is on the ground, or flipping a switch, or turning a valve is a good example of 1 AP. Interacting with a civilian, I think is listed somewhere else. There it is. Interacting with a civilian in a way that affects their panic level should generally be 2 AP. Even if it's something like a performance or showmanship check, that would still be 2 AP to kind of actually affect that score. Interacting with a door shouldn't cost any AP, but picking the lock should be 2. Just kind of a general guide for that sort of thing. But ultimately, it's up to the GM's discretion. Otherwise, communicating with heroes, no AP cost. Don't worry about it. And that's going to do it for our other actions. There may be some other things that you guys might think of that we don't necessarily have an AP value listed for. That's all up to GM's discretion based on what they think should be able to happen based on the action economy that we have listed out here. If you guys have any more questions about it, or specific use cases you were looking for an answer to, we plan to have information about that sort of thing up on our website as well. You can also jump in our Discord and ask questions. We've got a lot of great people in there that have already played the game a little bit, and we're always happy to help us in the development team, because we're still playing this game. So if you have any other questions, check those out. Otherwise, we're going to have some more great videos for other aspects of the game for you here pretty soon. So stay tuned. And until next time, we'll see you.